Is this your studio?
No, we got rid of our studio, and this is my house. It's my yard.
It's such a nice musical space.
Thank you.
I'm going to go in straight away with a question, if you're ready.
Yeah, cool. Go in with a question. Let's do it. Let's start. Let's go.
So the first thing I was going to ask you, Dan, is what do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are around management?
Well, that's an interesting one. I'll put it back to you. Is that from people in the music industry or outside of the music industry? Because I think there's a very different kind of view of what management is
Great
from
question.
both
I will
both of those.
say, given the audience of this podcast, I'll say people who are either in the music industry or music industry adjacent. So
Yeah.
they might be a fan but want to be in the music industry, or they might be actively working in it already.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I'm not sure people exactly know what managers do, and I think that's because every manager does something different. They approach their role differently, and with each relationship with their clients, they've got to provide something a different service, because not every artist or producer or studio personnel will need the same kind of service and support. So I think it's an understanding of just what they do, and it is the most common misconception. And I think that's valid, really, to have that, because I just think every manager will be different. And I personally have been on a journey where I provide different services throughout my managerial career, and I approach things very differently with each client. So yeah.
Is it
Is that
something?
kind
Is it
of
something? Yeah, it does. But obviously, it gives me
okay?
100,000 more questions. Is it
Okay.
something that when you, because I know you're part of the MMF, and is it something that when you kind of connect and plug in and spend time with other managers who are working in music, a topic that comes up a lot, or are there other topics that are like hot
Yeah,
topics of
it's
conversation?
so much so, and I've been really fortunate to be very involved with a lot of things that MMF are doing. So I've been on two managerial retreats that they've done. I've been involved in sort of panel sessions and conferences, and as well as we went to an associates dinner the other night, which was really good fun, meeting people who support the MMF from outside. And every time I meet another manager or talk in that kind of environment, it's really validating, because everyone's just like making up as they go along to a certain extent. Like, they will have a certain strategy and a certain sort of infrastructure that they kind of work to, but we all have to adapt and learn to kind of work within the boundaries which are ever changing in the music industry.
Yeah.
I think the one thing though is that the MMF and managers are very, very aware that there needs to be some sort of uh, education, perhaps for a lot of managers, especially new managers, and there needs to be standards more than anything. So standards that I suppose artists and studio personnel know that they're going to get with a manager when they sign a deal or agree to work with them. And I think that's something that MMF are working on right now, and is going to be industry standard at some point. And I really welcome that. So I think people are definitely aware that that needs to be done.
Does MMF work across all genres, and do you
Yeah.
find that there's differences in terms of like you'll have more alignment with other people working in dance and electronic versus other genre spaces?
I think every organization in the past 5-10 years, like MMF, AIM, like FAC, etc., have realized that they were not being very diverse in their kind of membership. And I think they've all done a fantastic job to kind of spread the word and make themselves seem more appealing to people that might not have signed up previously. So I think there's such a wide genre with the MMF, and it's ever improving, basically.
Yeah. And do you have like, what does a typical day or maybe a typical week look like in the life of Dan Garber right now?
There isn't one. Like I've recently kind of changed up my working world a lot because I was massively overworked and experienced burnout. And so the past 6 months have been kind of working through that and trying to reduce my workload at the same time as having a very decent output for the clients that remained, basically. So my working day has reduced massively, which is I'm very grateful for. I would say often starts the day with a meeting or a call with my clients, especially Laura. I'm on the phone to her basically every day. Like it's a running joke that, like, you know, we'll speak next week, and it's like, no, we're definitely speaking an hour or something like that. And we're just on the phone all the time. I think we definitely speak more to each other than we do to our respective partners. But yeah, I'm on a call a lot with those guys, with Laura and Miko, and working with them, and then getting through emails. There's a lot of that, obviously, and mainly kind of working across, kind of making sure that we're aligned with long-term strategies and short-term strategies. So I'm just trying to find a way that works with my ADHD and my dyslexia, and I'm always kind of looking for things that kind of work. So my latest thing from my massive to-do list is to choose 3 things a day to focus on. And that is working really, really, really nicely for me right now. So an average day would be chat to Laura and Miko, and then kind of Laura's always on campaign. So it'll be talking to a label that she's working with currently, then probably a label that she's working with next. And then, yeah, getting through emails and hitting up those 3 main tasks.
Yeah. I mean, her output, and obviously then, and yours as well, is significant and kind of growing, which is great because it's so healthy and it's so nice. But I do also think you're both quite good. I mean, we had it earlier this year when I was like, should we do this thing at IMS? And you both had to be like, do you know what? We actually have so many other things on our plates. So I think at least it feels from my side, and maybe that's as a result of, as you said, very consciously, but you're still quite good at saying no to things. But do you find that hard?
No, not anymore. We did. And I think it's part of growing up, to be honest, and just like setting boundaries. Well, for me, like, not on everyone, like me growing up, like I think, like, before, as I said, I was overworked. I would take everything on and try and do everything. And now I think we're in a fortunate position where we can say no to stuff. And personally, I think the way that we can say no to stuff as well is because we have a really, in my mind, solid long-term plan and vision that we work on releases and strategies very far in advance for us. And so it allows us to really kind of map things out and be able to be like, no, we just can't do that. Like, we'd love to, but that's not part of our plan. We should come and revisit that next year or the year after. And that's made it easier to turn down things. But I don't like turning down stuff, especially opportunities that I think can help grow. And but sometimes you've got to do it.
Yeah. Because I know obviously Laura's like been in the music industry for a long time as well, which probably gives her that authority and that clarity. And likewise with you, you've had like the benefit of seeing lots of different artist trajectories. But did that long-term strategy, is that something you've been working on since the start of the Laura project, or is that something that's been developed? And I guess I'll say that from my side as an artist, when I kind of put my artist hat on, I'll like be sort of micro shifting my strategy all the time based on like new information with a sort of overarching kind of general direction.
I think it's really challenging to have, like, to know what the right thing to say is here, because I think if you're a developing artist, it's great to have a long-term vision, but it can be challenging to have a sort of long-term plan or strategy. I think some of the times you've got to let things grow organically and find your lane and your path. And I think if you're too rigid, then that's really fucking hard. But if you are sort of established to some extent, you'll kind of know where you are in your field, in your lane, then it's a bit easier to make a long-term plan and be like, this is what I'm doing. I want to kind of grow gradually into this genre or this area or this point in life. And I think for us, I've always worked long-term. I've had jobs in the music industry where I've had to work or rely on people that were thinking much more short-term, and it's been uncomfortable for me. It's not a way that I approach things. I like to have everything in order before I'm able to kind of set release dates or set plans. And I've been fortunate enough to be sort of mentored or sort of educated by people who've shared that same vision as well. So I've kind of learned long-term game plans. But I think it really came into effect when we launched the lau.ra artist, when she became pregnant. And that we were at a point where it's like, we've literally kind of just launched, and now what are we going to do? We can't put this on hold. So we just made a plan, a 2-year plan basically, with releases, and signed the deals that were necessary to allow us to do that, which meant that she could focus on her family in that time, but continue her career, and it wouldn't affect it. And that it worked really well, you know, and it allowed her to have time with her family as well as kind of build her career. And so, yeah, ever since then, it's just been, we've had that sort of leeway, I suppose, to kind of continue that long-term plan.
Yeah. I mean, she said it to me. I always ask, because I think that parents are super human, but I think what she said when I asked her, and what other people, I took something, I talked to my sister. My sister's a mum, and she's building a business at the moment. You kind of, I see how efficient people become when they're parents, and I find that really inspiring. And it's something that even as someone who's not a parent, I'm like, how can I have a bit more of that efficiency, or how can I put guardrails in place so that, because I don't think the efficiency drops from having more to do. And that's if you approach it well, you can retain your kind of output and efficiency, but you just have to be a bit more strategic.
I think that's right, especially for mothers. Mothers are absolutely superhuman when it comes to a lot of things, but especially that, just getting stuff done. And just because you got to do it, and they're like, I'm inspired by them all the time. And it's beautiful, and it's something that I am trying to take in with this past 6 months and my workload and my approach to work, of like reducing the hours that I actively do stuff, but not reducing the effectiveness as you do.
Yeah. So can you wind me back to how we got here, how you got to management, and what your journey looked like from uni?
Yeah, it's interesting. What can I say about that? So basically, management is something that I've always had an interest in music. I was always playing music, around music, and putting gigs on at uni, that kind of classic thing. And everyone who I knew in the industry, who was working within the industry, was always like, you should be a manager. You should be a manager. And I was like, nah, I don't want to. For me, it was all about live. I just love putting on events and club nights and parties, and that was for me the thing that I really enjoyed. And then I sort of just helped people out, and sort of that was basically management. But in my mind, it was like, I'm just helping them out, which kind of led to like kind of tour managing, and then that led to management, and then led to kind of other things. But the full kind of spectrum was, I was in uni, put gigs on. A lot of the gigs that I was putting on were kind of launch parties or kind of album launches or single launches. And then that kind of coincided with kind of media back then getting involved. So like Clash magazine, for instance, or Vice, or Rocker, or Enemy, or whoever it was, kind of latching on to an event that I was putting on and doing sort of media partnerships. And then that led into brands and brand partnerships and doing events and festival curations and stuff like that. And then that led me into the world of brands and kind of music. And I started in a role working for a company doing music consultancy, consulting brands on how they use music in their marketing campaigns, what artists to work with, what the target audience is, what music relates to them. And a lot of that was based around sync and events. And I was introduced to a lot of new upcoming emerging acts. And we created a label to essentially be a platform for them, a stepping stone for artists that weren't getting support but we really believed in. And we released music all the time and helped those guys out in very artist friendly fashions, I hope. And then one day there was a showcase for one of the artists that we were releasing, and they went to school with lau.ra, and they got lau.ra to support them in one of her art school projects, which was called Dimpleby and Kappa. And
Amazing.
it was wild. That's a story for another day, but that was a really interesting kind of creation. Anyway, I was basically just absolutely blown away by like this artist who was on stage on her own doing like kind of loops and kind of hitting bottles and looping them and playing little keys and making really kind of left field electronica, but like had this most amazing voice and catchy hooks and melodies. And anyway, I went up to her after the show. I was like, I'd love to work with you. And we decided to kind of release some records together. And then then we got to a point where we were just like, you're way too good for us. Like, we need to kind of help you get some stuff out with some bigger labels that can help propel your career. And so we decided to kind of basically kind of evolve into management for lau.ra. And that's when she created Fem, and we had a lot of kind of major label interest, and it was a very fun, exciting time. And so that was the launch of the management, basically, which I did alongside the sort of brand and marketing world for the next kind of decade, basically, until recently, where I just kind of went full steam into management and leaving the rest of that world behind.
Yeah. Has it been, I guess there's a lot of the evolution's been somewhere between a conscious move and a sort of accidental, well, not really accidental, but just going with...
No, accidental is the word. Is all like, accidental is definitely the word. It's all been that organic process of me falling into everything, every step of the way. Even the kind of that journey that I told you, like the gig side happened because I was in a pub like venue talking about how my friends were getting ripped off at shows, and the landlord overheard me and said, put a show on here. So I did, and I really enjoyed it and started kind of evolving from there. The brand side, again, just kind of happened because of where I was. Everything's happened because of I was in the right place at the right time for that part of the journey to go down. Obviously, each time that happens, I've had to make a decision and a choice, but I've just gone with my heart, really. I know that sounds a bit soppy, but I've just been like, that just looks like fun. I love that. I'm going to follow that path.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you can't really go against your heart sometimes, can you? It's so strong that you just kind of have to. I mean, I made a decision a couple of years ago that was very heart led, that like I'm thinking about now, I'm like, that's made my life harder. But at the same time, I also know that it's like, it was still the right path, because otherwise I wouldn't, it's like you can't really sleep at night unless you're following your instinct and your internal compass, I don't think.
Yeah. I think it's a good chat.
So then, is the establishing of Wonk did that come from a craving of missing kind of putting on events or something else?
No way. I hate putting on events now. Like, I don't want to be a promoter. I left that behind, and that's definitely a conscious decision of how we're running Wonk as more of a community rather than a club night. But again, that was an accident. Like, we put on a club night for a launch of an EP that lau.ra's doing with Defected, and it was so much fun that we just did another one as a sort of Christmas special, and then we were like, let's just do this every month. And I think there was a plan there. There was an active plan of we were at a time where we were in between booking agents, and we were not getting the right shows, and we needed to kind of ramp up making people aware of lau.ra and her DJ sets. There was a lot going on before that about how to kind of showcase what lau.ra's DJ sets are, because if you look on, for instance, Spotify, her top tracks and how that looks, there are kind of remixes on there. There's vocals that she's lent to other artists who are perhaps in kind of deep house world, and it doesn't necessarily represent what she plays out in her DJ sets. So we really wanted to kind of hammer that home and needed to get sort of more visual content, more mixes, more kind of audience reactions. So that paired with kind of creating a community and building an audience made that kind of decision. But again, it was just kind of landed on that kind of our laps, and we kind of decided to carry on with it, I suppose. 18 months later.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm thinking about like even the content that lau.ra's been doing that's obviously doing really well and has resulted in the remix that's coming out, or that's out now, finally. That's also feels like that style of content that she's been doing has been for the past kind of 18 months as well. So I suppose there's been this like synergy of her identity to people that are unfamiliar, or to the online audience, which is obviously a huge part of how people discover you nowadays. But it's quite a... It's not something you can turn over in a week, you know. It's quite
it's a very conscious effort. Like we've been talking for a long time about the content that's connects with people and just trying to find that thing. For us, it's always been about, doesn't matter what it is or really how it looks or the quality or anything like that. It's got to be something that, and this advice we give to a lot of other artists and DJs as well, it's got to be something that's easy for you to do and can look the same, appear the same, or at least similar. So like similar camera angle or similar sort of structure to that piece of content that you do each time. And it's got to be something that you can do at least 3 or 4 times a week. So again, this kind of happened by accident. She was in a coffee shop waiting for a meeting, and she was just kind of listening through a track, and she just put her phone to the side, kind of camera angle to the side profile, listening to it and kind of going through the track and what it means and all this kind of stuff. The camera fell down to make a nice little kind of just like, yeah, just it's true, it's real. And, you know, she didn't try to correct that, but it connected with people. People just like that. And then it was quite easy to go, well, how can we replicate this? And where are you every day that you can kind of get this done? And she's in the studio every day, which is why she can release so much music, because that's her world. And so it's like for 5 to 15 minutes every day, just put the camera there and record something. And sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't, but we've got that kind of structure now that will work. And the same with Wonk. Like as soon as we met Ollie, the fabulous Ollie Wiggins at a PRS, a PRS event that lau.ra was playing at, and we just loved the content that he created and the efficiency. Oh my gosh, man, that dude, what a guy. And so we asked him to come down and shoot content for Wonk, and immediately it just had a style to it that was Wonk. Like the sort of colors, the camera angles, the sort of like how he interacts, because he's a DJ as well. And I think that really helps to know what to film and what reactions to film. And it was important to kind of make sure it was, you know, not a sort of people behind the DJ booth. We want people to be immersed in the music and not on show, but want to show their reactions. So there's a balance, and he's just killed it with that. And so it's been quite easy to kind of run with that style basically since then.
Yeah. I find it really interesting because obviously worked with Ollie at Wonk, and also on he shot a couple of things for me as well, because he is so talk about like a safe pair of hands. Like, you know exactly that what you're going to get out is everything you hope for and more. But because of like my background in marketing and like working with a lot of brands, when like in a lot of the brands that I was working with at the same time as the maybe about a year ago when I first started working with Ollie and stuff, whenever we were looking for videographers or capture or anything, the amount of like pressure to work with like a celebrity videographer or like someone who had this name and a shot, and the amount of times that you'd be disappointed with the output or whatever. And then outside of that, in creative world, I'd be working with people who were kind of earlier in their careers and like building, and so just so invested and so dedicated and such crafts. Like Ollie's a real craftsman, like, you know, he's so on it, and as you say, so attuned to the music and the need for the output and thinking about how this can like be optimized on social. And it was so nice to work with that, and then and know that some people wouldn't have been open to working with someone who hadn't shot Andre 3000 or whatever, you know. But like just the output of it was so nice, and it felt like such a much healthier way to approach building than in a lot of the other conversations that I was in.
He's very easy to talk to and really kind of understands your vision as well, you know. And he kind of, if he doesn't, he'll kind of ask the right questions, and he's always got backup for the backup for the backup. So you know, that safe pair of hands is it's seen, definitely.
Are there qualities you think that you know, and obviously I know lau.ra, so she has them in abundance, so but are there qualities that you think are specifically appealing from a manager side when you're working with an artist that they carry?
That's a really good question. I think appealing is a good word as well, because I've been trying to think about this a lot, about what makes an artist kind of break through. And I think there's the talent and the hard work, which goes without saying. I think if you don't have either of those, then it's going to be a real struggle. But you've got to have a sort of, in my view, I think a lot of people will disagree with this, but I think in my view, you've just got to have this sort of aura or sort of personality that attracts people to you. Whether that's like, you know, like how you talk about things, or how you inspire people, or how you approach your music, or how you present yourself live, whatever it is, it's got to be something that people like. I've got to tell my friend about this. I've got to kind of go and see them again. I want to hear their track that they're releasing before anyone else. Like, just that interest. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if you could put your finger on it. I'm sure someone could explain it better than me. But it's just that way of being that's just like, I just want to be around you. I want to be your friend, or I want to hear what you've got to say, interested in you.
Do you think there's obviously a lot of conversation at the moment about how hard it is in the music industry? Do you think that it's got harder in the time that you've been working in it, in terms of breaking through as an artist, having a sustainable career? Or do you think it's always been hard and this is just another time of different challenges?
I think the music industry goes through different stages where it's harder and easier. And I think that's to do with the amount of money that the music industry kind of bring in as an industry. When there's more money around, there's more risk taken, and then perhaps it's easier to kind of get into it. But I personally just think it's capitalism in general is making things a lot harder for people in general to kind of get in and break into new industries, earn money, full stop, and also make sacrifices. I think it's harder for people to just make a sacrifice and be like, I'm going all in. Like, it's music or nothing. I don't know how you can do that very well at the moment. And I've personally made a lot of sacrifices, and even recently, but I'm okay with that. But I don't know how I would get into the industry right now if I was trying to. Like, back then, it was, you know, I was able to kind of fall into things and be organic and take big risks, and kind of, I spent 4 years sofa surfing and sleeping on people's floors and stuff like that to kind of bide my time. But I don't, can you do that now? Like, do people have floors to sleep on? Like, I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I remember, I mean, even just like, property in London, like the how much you used to be able to spend on rent if you wanted just a small room or like minimal requirements versus now if you want minimum requirements, shared spaces, etc. The expectation that you spend is like what you used to have to have like a double room with an ensuite bathroom and and spare. Yeah, it's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is like, because of kind of slightly having this foot in a kind of corporate camp, but then also just feeling
Yeah.
like an artist, and then even the more corporate side of the industry that I was in is fallen way behind kind of tech and certain other advancements in terms of, your opportunity to actually bring in an income and that's sustainable for living in big cities. And it's such an interesting thing because it is that question of sacrifice, of like, sometimes you don't, the conversation around sacrifice and choice, etc., does feel different now. It doesn't actually feel like it's even possible in some
Yeah.
ways
Yeah.
to make certain
Yeah.
decisions.
I totally agree. I think those decisions are taken out your hands because of the cost of living and what everyone else who perhaps a while ago would be able to support you are not in a position to support you because of their situation as well.
Mm,
Um, so I think financially it's harder. I think there's much more competition in the fact that there's so many more people doing music and DJing.
mm.
But I don't think that should put people off.
Yeah, I agree.
In a weird
I
way, it's
agree.
like,
Yeah,
right? It is harder, but like,
yeah,
they
I
like, I
agree.
suppose if you're just starting in it, you don't know it's harder than it used to be. So,
Yeah, don't
right?
listen to this. Just being
Yeah,
blissfully
just
naive.
exactly. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, but I agree. I think it's kind of good to be aware of that things are going to be challenging, but to also know there are solutions for every problem. And it can just be a bit about structuring and working out the best way. I mean, I remember whenever I would speak to someone who was let's say if, like, there were a couple of artists that I produced for. It's not something I do that much of because I mainly focus on my own production. But when I have been in that environment, or when I'm around other creatives and they talk about going to try it for 2 years and then if it doesn't work, da da da. And I always find that train of thought really funny because for me, that was never a consideration. It's not about whether or not it will or won't work. I just know that I'll be doing it forever regardless. So it's not really a question of like, oh, I've got a timeline in my mind of, if this
Mm,
doesn't happen in the next 3 years, then I sack it in. I'm like, but it's who I am. Like, I love music, I wouldn't, I might adapt and evolve and have a slightly different focus. But given that it's never really brought in much money, if it in 2 years' time it still wasn't, then well, that's not really any different to what I'm doing now. So I don't really know why I would stop. But of course it's personal and people are in it for, not in it for different reasons, but people go after things for different reasons. But I don't think your input necessarily needs to have a timeline. That's how
I
I look
think,
at
I think, I think that's really beautifully put. And I think it's, yeah, what do you want out of it? Do you want to be
mm,
like a mega superstar DJ, producer? Do you want number ones? Do you want to travel the world? Or are you just kind of looking to kind of grow your kind of musical output? Are you looking to kind of be around like-minded people? Like for me, like it was all about partying. Like literally,
mm,
it's just I wanted to party. I didn't want the party to stop. So that's like I just did whatever I could to be in an industry where I could party. Like, but
yeah, success.
my kind of yeah did it. But my kind of values are very different now. My values is about kind of really kind of the artists that I'm working with having a successful long term career, but that can be
Mm,
different for each artist. Like some people see success as a monetary value attached to that. Some people see it as the ability to kind of have the space and time to be creative. And
mm,
it's different, as you say, it's different for everyone. So
yeah.
yeah,
I want to talk about Margate
yes,
because
good old Margate.
good old Margate. Obviously, you're home, known to be a creative place. But yeah, when did
Mm.
you move there? Were you in London before?
Yeah, born and bred in London, and I never thought I'd leave.
Mm.
And then during the pandemic, the first year, so 2020. It just got we were in a small flat and we just had a baby, and it started to sort of be a little bit, I wouldn't say claustrophobic, but it was very obvious that we were within our small little bubble in Clapton where we were. And, you know, we had our little flat and we had like our local area and our kind of Chatsworth Road. And that was our life. And it was just like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, we're paying like premium to like be in a like mile square radius. Like,
Yeah.
we could be somewhere else and kind of have a better quality of life. And Margate is somewhere that we had always thought about, because I had friends who lived here, friends who work in music, and they always raved about it. We'd come down to see them, and they'd just be like, the first thing they'd say is just move here. But we were actively looking at Amsterdam, like that's where we were going to move. And then, like when the pandemic kind of was like, when is this going to end? I don't know if you remember that. It was like, is this going to end?
Yeah.
How long is this going to go on for? We were just like, we could be in Amsterdam without any sort of network or community or being able to see our friends and family for who knows how long. So we decided to kind of move somewhere that was still connected to people that we'd want to see. And so Margate was the only place, really. It was a very easy decision after that. And it's a beautiful place that it's got the sea, and just the freedom of that is amazing. And a lot of people have come down here to make it their homes or are from here and working really, really hard to kind of uplift the people and the community that are here, because it is a very poor area, and everyone's trying to work together and through kind of educations and charity. And it's also an area that suffered incredibly with kind of homophobia and racism. And now, you know, it's home thanks to the work of some very lovely people like Amy and Luke. They've made it a very safe place for queer and underrepresented communities. And now, you know, it's got an amazing pride, which is fantastic. And it's very kind of anti-racist and anti-homophobic and kind of embracing everyone as they are. And I really feel that, and I feel like it's changed me. You know, I've never thought like a place would kind of change me, but it's made me feel more at ease with myself and just not chasing things. And it's a different way of life down here. I love it.
Yeah. On that note, you are a real ally to, you know, as a white man, a real ally to us gals and minorities in music. You know, what are some of the things that you think we can do or need to do to kind of keep moving the industry forward and keep making it a more diverse and inclusive space?
It's a really important topic for me, and I really kind of feel a responsibility, you know, as you said, as a white man, to kind of try and open doors or keep the doors open. I don't know kind of the right way of saying it, but for other people who are underrepresented. And I just think we should be in a matriarchy, to be honest. Like, I can't be any more, like, I just fuck the patriarchy. Like, I think it's destroying humanity and the planet, and I can't stand it. So I think the people that are underrepresented are people that can lead this world and humans into a much better way. And I think there's two things that need to be done. One is representation, which is what we try to do at Wonk, which is we want people to be represented behind the decks and on stage so that they feel included when they come to events, and they can feel like they can be themselves and they want to kind of immerse themselves in that community and be part of it. So I think it's quite clear from what we've done with, you know, yourself and the residents that come along, and like it's not just join in and, you know, dance around. Like you are Wonk, basically, you know. Like you are the community. You are, if you've got an idea or you want to get involved or you want to be behind the decks, you know, lau.ra came up with the idea of the open decks to kind of branch out even more, and the A&R sessions and the sort of the workshops that we do, and the curator clinic kind of opening up to kind of more kind of mental health and kind of awareness. So I think representation and kind of providing a platform for people to express themselves, whether that's vocally, verbally, or kind of creatively. But also the other thing is equally as important, and that's for people, especially white men, who are in positions of power, to really, I think the only thing to do is step aside and kind of lay the foundations for others to kind of take on those important roles. Because without people who see the world through their own eyes, it's impossible to make change. I think those kind of, and I don't mean to kind of be berating on, but not all men are the same, and they're not all kind of power hungry and walk all over people and all this kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of really, really good men out there, but I don't think it's enough. Like, I think we have to have kind of women and minorities taking the helm and taking charge, because they will approach things differently, and that's my view.
Yeah. It's funny with the open decks, because it's one of those things that when I remember when I first started DJing, it took me ages to actually get to really start playing in front of people, because I didn't know how. And I know that sounds silly, but I would reach out to venues, I would randomly message people, but no one would ever respond, which is fine because I didn't know them. I probably was emailing someone who had nothing to do with the actual booking of DJs. I had no probably online profile, all the things that as you go through, you start to be like, okay, these are the things that you need to have in your back catalogue before you're going to be able to build relationships. These are the people that you need to speak to. But something like, now I'm in the spaces that I'm in, open decks is something that you can find and you can seek out, and obviously something that's done at Wonk. But, when I think to how simple but how nice that is for anyone who's coming, obviously there's so many people that come down who DJ. I mean, there is a lot of people who DJ, whether they plan to do it professionally or they just do it because they enjoy it, or they just want to, maybe they're more of a producer but they want an opportunity to test something out. Having that space to do that, I know, even, I guess like 6-7 years ago when I was starting DJing, that would have made a big difference, and I would have sort of loved to know that was possible and that was a thing, and that you could actually be part of this lineup literally just by turning up. And by the way, it's free.
Yeah.
And it's like such a sort of simple,
and maybe you get Ollie to film you whilst you're doing that as well.
Yeah.
And then you've got a bit of content to show, potential bookers or venues. But yeah, it's like, where the fuck do you start? Like, I get asked that question a lot, like, how do I get into the industry and how do I start? It's like people will find their own paths, and I think it's important for places or people that have got a platform like Wonk to have something for people to have that little start.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that if you know lots of people, like, there's some people who just were kind of, they're just always around people in the industry or whatever. So it was very easy. I know there's some people who just kind of, they start something and 3 months later, they've got a massive booking because they happen to be, etc. But I don't think that long term actually gives you any faster of a career. I think even if you don't know anyone, you can just find these spaces where you can turn up and just introduce yourself. And while it's a little bit scary, everybody really wants you to be there. So it's kind of just a case of like finding these spaces. I think that's the only way you can start, but there aren't loads of them, but they do exist.
Yeah, finding your people. But that also kind of goes back to that thing about what I was talking about with the artists, about having that sort of personality, or whatever it is that people want to take an interest in you. There's a way of kind of presenting yourself, which has got to be completely natural, but like, don't go in there selling yourself. Like, I think the big hard sell, just be like, it's off-putting, I think. But I think you've got to hunt down those opportunities. And a lot of the time, I think there's hopefully things like Wonk where you can kind of go and kind of get that first set, or kind of go to the open decks. But there's also, I think, really importantly, is showing up for kind of conferences and panels and workshops and stuff. And if you recognize the people that turn up every time, hardworking, and you notice them, and then you might get chatting to them. And I think just make yourself familiar with the scenes that you want to be in.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point, because I don't think I think sometimes you feel pressure that, like, if you're going to an event, you have to maximize. I mean, even on Tuesday, I got to go to the Substack summer party.
Cool.
And which was cool. obviously there was like every like who's who of writers and stuff were there. So the big one for me was Annie Mac was there, and I've never
Oh,
met
wicked.
Annie.
Yeah.
And she's obviously a massive inspiration to me and someone I would love to connect with at some point in the future. And so I'm in that environment, I'm thinking, is this the time? You know, she's right there. She's talking about writing. I've been writing for a while. But I was like, there's something that just feels invasive about it when people have it just to have a nice time. And in the end, I was like, do you know what? Not now. But at some point, I will go. And I could have done that. But I do think as you move through and after a while, I have become just a lot more relaxed about there's just something nice about being in the same environment. You sponge, you're all building things. And at some point, there's a natural moment where a conversation just happens. And so you don't actually need to force it. You kind of just need to show interest and show up. And it just, you know, TBC, obviously, on the story between Annie and I. But I think there are times where I've gone to certain events with a purpose. If there was a particular, for example, I did it with She Said So. I went to a Christmas party with the hope of meeting the team and got there early, introduced myself to someone that happened to be on the team, and then ended up sitting with the team, and then followed up a few times, said, look, I've just finished this podcast. I can't keep it going. I want to help with, or I want to use some of my time towards creating a better space for women in the industry and kind of furthering it. And that was how I kind of built the relationship there and started doing some work with them. So that was a moment where did come from a deliberate place. But most Wonk, for example, I just came because I just wanted to come, and I didn't know who was going to be there. The first person I saw was Rana, who I knew from when I was DJing hip hop and hadn't seen in sort of 3 years.
Right.
And so there's this kind of weird, nice thing that sometimes happens when you turn up without having too much expectation, but you just sort of push yourself to go.
Yeah.
And then you just see.
It's interesting. Like, I think a lot of people get nervous, right? I'm not one to get nervous about going to an event. I might be nervous about putting myself out there and talking to someone and making sure, like, for me, this talking on a podcast is quite nerve-wracking for me. Like, I'm quite good at saying the wrong thing. So, but,
you'll get to listen back before it goes live, so you can check.
Okay, cool. Cut that out. It's going to be like a 5-minute podcast. But I think a lot of people that get nervous about kind of it's a hard thing to put themselves out there, to go to that event, you know, to get out there, like pick up the courage. But I do think if you can try and get through that, and I think it's the same with most things, the more and more you do things, the easier they get, like, to do. And so if you can, for instance, you know, if you just show up a few times where, you know, Annie Mac might happen to be, or you see that she's doing a chat talk or something like that, you might be there one day and there might be someone that you know who's like, oh, I know Annie, let me introduce you. But like, I think, as long as you're not invading their space, I think it's okay. But it sounds like you judge the situation quite well.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I've put it out there on here. Someone's going to probably message me and be like, I can intro you to Annie if you want.
She's going to be...
I'll be like, no, it's fine. Guest. It's fine. She'll be the guest at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but, okay, so the final thing I wanted to ask you is what's inspiring you at the moment? It might be in music, it might be outside on a more personal level, but what are some of the things that you're working on or that you're curious about over the net that you want to sort of invest some energy in over the next few months?
That is a really good question, and it's something that I need to kind of think about a lot. I think for me, I don't know how to kind of evolve this, but it's about learning, and it's not just about kind of me learning, but I've kind of started doing a lot of consultancy, sort of mentoring for a lot of people, a lot of artists, and sometimes other managers. And I'm really inspired by that and really enjoying doing that, because I'm learning from talking quite closely with other people about their past and their kind of plans and strategies. So for me, it's about other people, like learning from other people, being out there. Wow, I love kind of being at Wonk and just chatting to you guys, like the residents, and kind of hearing your stories and what paths you're on and what music you're into and stuff like that. So it's just, for me, it's people are inspiring, and people kind of, that's yeah, it's not something that's new or some new technology or new way of doing things or anything. It's always about surrounding myself with people that can inspire me or kind of educate me in a good way.
Yeah. Do you find that, because I find this, that when I speak to people about their experiences and their journeys, it gives me a sense of clarity about what I'm doing. I
Yeah,
don't know why
clarity
or
and
how. This is just
validation.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
It's empowering.
It's one of the,
It's amazing.
it's really empowering. It's one of the reasons I love doing podcasts. Is that I always leave feeling like, cool, I know what I'm doing. I don't know how. I don't know why.
It's yeah, people
Whereas
are
before
amazing.
that, I'm
Just
like, my brain is a jungle.
yes, yeah, I feel that as well. Yeah, the same.
Um, Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would like to touch on at all?
No, I think you're amazing. I love everything that you do, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that we get to chat and get to
Me
kind of work
too.
on Wonk together. And long live DMD. And like, yeah,
Thank
great.
you. I'm so grateful to be a part of Wonk. I told you, I think, but yeah, for ages. But it's something that even my sister reminds me of, or people, both my sisters or people that I'm close to, is that one of my complaints for a long time was that I felt like I was kind of alone in this music business, and I was just kind of
Yeah,
trying to do my thing because it wasn't something that my immediate friendship group were going after, or I didn't have a partner that was in it or anything like that. So I felt like I had to leave loads of things that were sociable and comfortable to go and work on this thing by myself. And so it's been the sort of the best thing of the past year or two to start to feel like, oh, I'm not really alone in this anymore. I've got people that I can learn from, and that people that we've both been on our journeys, but now we're kind of going on our journeys together, and they're all going to look different, but we're around, we're there for each other. It's like makes such a difference, I think, to your experience of your work, and then given the nature of our work, your life, really.
yeah, totally. I think that's it. It is life. It is for a lot of people, right? Like work
Mm,
life balance is just kind of music industry. Being in music is life. Music gives us life and love, and it's a beautiful thing. And to be able to share that with people and like-minded people is just that's it. That's for me success, because
mm,
it can be a hard and lonely place as a manager and also an artist and a DJ. People see them traveling everywhere and kind of playing to lots of people, but that connection isn't always there. So I think, yeah, we're incredibly lucky that we've got this community
mm.
and can share the journey with each other. It's brilliant.
Perfect way to wrap up the conversation. Thank you so much, Dan, for being a
Thank
guest on
you.
the DMD podcast, the first manager that I've spoken to. I'm very grateful that you were up for it.
Absolutely. You know it. See you on the 22nd of August
See you on the 22nd of August. Yeah, if not
in
before, but yeah,
Margate.
probably
Yeah, yeah.
in Margate.
Yeah, come on the beach.
I'm hoping we get better weather this year.
Yeah, bring your brollies. You never know.
Either way, we'll have a good time.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks, Lex.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye.